As dusk was falling, I was on my own and speeding down a lonesome highway, but a glowing vacancy sign at a seedy roadside motel provided a momentary reprieve. The only sound in the complete darkness was the eerie hum of a flickering neon sign as I pulled into the gravel parking lot with no other options in sight. The atmosphere inside was that distinct concoction of stale cigarette smoke and decades-old desperation. The receptionist, a stranger with oily hair and an unsettling smile, gave me a knowing look as he observed me. Without even looking at my identification, he handed me a rusted key and muttered something incomprehensible. At that point, alarm bells ought to have gone off, but I was too exhausted to notice. My room evoked the era of tacky. The bed probably had more stories than I wanted to hear. The wallpaper was tacky floral. I sat down on it and set an alarm for the morning's first light. The flickering fluorescent light outside my window made it difficult to fall asleep due to the air conditioner's death groan and the unsettling shadows it cast on the walls. At 3 after midnight, I heard a loud, persistent knock on my door. I felt my heart skip a beat and looked for the lamp switch. When I cracked open the door, I was greeted by the same receptionist from Hal, who had changed his crooked smile into a menacing grin. "What the hell do you want?" I yelled, my voice quivering with fear and rage. He simply stared at me with his piercing eyes fixed on me. I tried again, speaking more loudly and firmly this time. "Why are you knocking on my door in the middle of the night?" There was no response. He continued to smile like a lunatic without blinking or even flinching. I was in such a panic that I began to wonder if I had been wise to bring the tire iron from the car. "Spit it out, or the police are coming," I yelled. When the subject of the police came up, his grin disappeared. He strode off into the gloomy hallway without saying anything. The door was slammed shut, with my heart pounding like a bass drum. I was unable to sleep after that for several days. I kept checking time as the minutes felt like hours and dreaded the sun's impending rise, trying to figure out what the creep had in mind or was planning. My mind raced through all the terrifying scenarios, from robbery to something much worse. As soon as the first hint of dawn appeared on the horizon, I threw my belongings in my car and drove off. The neon vacancy sign looked even more menacing in the chilly daylight. When informed of the incident, the neighborhood police said they would look into it. But the front desk agent was nowhere to be found. It looked like he had vanished into thin air. As for the motel, well, it turned out that it had a reputation. The region had long been the subject of unsavory characters and phantom activity rumors. I'll always remember spending that evening in the unsettling motel. Whatever the receptionist's motives, I won't be looking to stay at a roadside motel anytime soon. In some circumstances, it's preferable to leave individuals and locations in the shadows where they belong. Seeking adventure and freedom, my spouse and I embarked on an exciting cross-country road trip. As long as we were away from the daily grind, we didn't care where we ended up. We arrived at a tiny town that resembled something out of a Stephen King novel one fateful evening. There was only one hotel, and it appeared to have seen better days. However, we were worn out and simply needed a place to spend the night. We dismissed the sensation of unease that the receptionist exuded. She gave us a corroded key to room 13. It was a dimly lit hotel hallway with that old world smell that only old places have to offer. So yeah, superstitious much? It looked, I swear, like a scene from a horror film when we pushed open the door to our room. It was a stuffy, oppressive atmosphere. I couldn't blame my wife when she turned as pale as a ghost. The floor and the sink in the bathroom were covered in blood. Gore levels comparable to those in horror films, I mean. Feeling like a drum solo, my heart thudded. A wave of panic shot through me. My wife screamed so loudly that I could barely get the front desk to give me an explanation. I quickly found the reason behind her fear, and that was it. An unconscious body splayed across the bed. Bloodshot eyes gauntlet at the ceiling, and crimson streaked the walls like ghoulish artwork. Dragging the door shut behind us, we staggered from the room. I was about to lose my lunch, and my wife was going crazy. With unsteady voices, we reported the shocking finding to 911. Unbelievably composed, the operator told us to wait for the police to arrive. However, there was absolutely no chance that we would remain for that. Breathless, we rushed through the front door after tumbling down the rickety stairs. There was no sign of the eerie receptionist. It appeared as though she had disappeared. With tires squealing, we ran to our car and left the damn place behind us. It was almost an hour's drive to the next town, but we didn't turn around until we got there. It was there that we finally felt secure enough to tell the local sheriff everything. Looking doubtful of our wild story, he raised an eyebrow. However, upon exploring the hellhole we had abandoned, they discovered the crime scene precisely as we had described it. The murder in that eerie hotel made headlines and chilled us to the bone. It is said that reality is stranger than fiction, and in our case, reality was even more so. The lifeless body, the blood-stained bathroom, the mysteriously disappearing receptionist would always remain in our memories. That road trip was never completed. We were fortunate to have survived the dark and twisty turn the adventure had taken. A terrifying detour on our journey into the unknown. That nightmare hotel and its secrets will always linger in our memories. It's hard for me to believe I'm telling you this tale, but it's just too bizarre not to. Back in the past few years, I made the decision to travel by car to this tiny mountain town with a few of my friends. We chose a Whispering Pines Inn because it was the cheapest hotel we could find because we didn't have much money. Right away, the atmosphere was unsettling. Grandma's attic door permeated the lobby, and the peeling wallpaper appeared to have a skin condition. Given that we were only going to spend the night there, we didn't give a damn. The size of our room was extremely small, only big enough for 2 beds, a TV that looks like it belonged to my grandpa, and a spooky painting of a dark forest. Although it seemed as though the forest was watching us, we were too worn out from the road to care. After relaxing and playing cards, we went to bed early. We intended to go on one of the nearby hikes the following day. We awoke that morning to a chilly room that was much colder than it should have been. Despite being as cold as Antarctica, we hadn't turned the AC on. We got ready and noticed something wasn't right. My wallet was empty of cash and Joe's camera was missing. Panic started to set in. Where the hell did our money go? And who the hell stole Joe's camera, since we knew we hadn't spent anything the previous evening? To see if anything had been captured on the security cameras, we made the decision to check with the front desk. The front desk agent seemed a little off, his eyes darting all over the place, as if he were up to no good. Even though he insisted he would review the video, it was clear he would rather be somewhere else. While we waited, we ran into the people who were our neighbors in the room next door. A dubious man with oily hair, suspicious eyes, and a persistent nervous tic. He introduced himself as Mark, but something about his tone made me wonder if that was really his name. The receptionist eventually called us over. The security cameras were having technical issues, and he appeared as ghostly pale as they did. At a mile away, I could smell the BS. They were obviously not going to assist us. We went back to our room to start packing, frustrated and angry. Our door was slightly ajar at that point, which we noticed. It resembled a scene from a scary film. We forced it open and discovered our belongings strewn across the bed in Mark's room. He must have sneaked into our room while we were out hiking, and that cunning snake was a thief all along. When we confronted him, he stumbled and tried to invent a story. It was too late though. That greasy crook received his just desserts after we seized our belongings and called the police. The Whispering Pines Inn apparently neglected to conduct background checks, despite the fact that Mark had a criminal record that was longer than a book. Joe's camera and our money were returned, and Mark was led away in handcuffs.